Hello and welcome to another KitPlus TV show. Now, training has always been an important part of keeping your skills up to date. Software evolves very quickly nowadays, but finding the time and resources to keep up to date with the latest feature release or even shortcut can be a challenge.
Yeah, the Department of Digital, Culture, Media and Sport estimates that in the UK in 2019 there were 289,000 jobs in film, TV and creative industries, with industry estimates that as many as 50% are either freelance or self-employed. And for the last 24 years, help has been on hand from Soho Editors, who have been a leading provider of freelancers to post-production companies. And we're joined today by Brian Cantwell. Welcome to the show, Brian. How are you doing? So, how has the industry changed recently? And do you think these estimates of 50% of the workforce of freelance is about right? Is it an underestimate, maybe?
Well, obviously, we've gone through a sort of perfect storm over the last couple of years with a combination of things that have affected not only our industry, but a lot of industries. Whether the industry has changed quite a lot. It has evolved from what it was, 100% male-dominated, 100% expensive. You couldn't get into this business unless you were very pockets or rich parents. That has changed. Anybody can get into this industry now if they've got the will and the desire. It's not, I say anybody can get into it. Getting into it and staying in it is another thing. Whether or not people will give you the opportunities as much as you might hope, that's another question. It's very competitive. There are thousands and thousands of people out there. As you pointed out, the industry survives hugely on a freelance market. I would estimate that the 50% that you quoted there is slightly under for some industries. The creative industries in the UK is huge. It is vast. When you start adding in all the areas that creative industries are involved in, whether it's automotive design, whether it's web design, whether it's TV programs, games, anything like this, it's all creative. And I think there was a UK creative report that came out yesterday that actually reported that our industry, the creative industries, is the third highest generator of capital value to the UK economy. I think I quote a figure of 114 billion, which is the only other sectors that generate more finance and construction. So that in itself should put this at the top of everybody's agendas, particularly from government at this moment. I think the last 18 months have shown that it's a very resilient industry. It's managed to weather some considerable storms very quickly. I think that's shown by the adaptiveness of the industry. We've managed to change our workflows, our business models overnight almost into something that is feasible. Now, not everybody's managed to survive that. There's been a lot of casualties along the way, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more. But wherever there is adversity, there's also opportunity. And what this has done over the last 20, I'm sure, longer months, has moved the industry forward at a massive pace. We're now into a remote working environment that would have only been dreamt about 2 years, 3 years ago. People thinking it's 5-10 years away. Well, it happened in 18 months. You know, everybody is now not necessarily 100% happy with remote working. Some people prefer to go into the traditional facilities, but clients have had to adapt, so have the talent and all the resources that needed to provide that. And they did it really, really, really well. Some better than others, as I say, but everybody who wanted to has managed. We ourselves have had to evolve into basically a remote working environment. We've almost had to create a virtual facility in the cloud for our clients. And some of that was stuck together with shoestring at the beginning, but that's now become a much more cohesive and secure platform for people to be working with. And also, there's loads and loads of third parties that have popped into the market in the last 18 months that do all of this for you. So you don't have to go out now and invest millions or tens of thousands at least in an infrastructure that you might not need. You can go out and rent things by the bit, by the megabyte, by the terabyte, by the bandwidth, and only use what you need. And therefore you can try things out and test things. And that allows That removes boundaries, it removes borders. Suddenly your market is not London, it's not the UK, it's the world. You can do a job from Australia just as easily as you can do a job from London. And to be honest, I know clients of mine that are in Australia, they would love the opportunity of working with some of the creative talent that we've got in the UK. If it didn't involve flying 15,000 miles around the world, paying a fortune to put them up, and then so they can do just the same quality of work sitting in London. And now people are willing to accept that.
So much work or so much of the creative process is being in an environment with other creatives. Have you seen any effects on people's, whether it be well-being or lack of creativity, or just lack of being with other people in that environment? Being in the post-production facility was a community, wasn't it? Has it had any effect on people's well-being, so to speak? Yeah.
I think it's going to affect different people in different ways, clearly. And I think some people have loved the fact that they've got the freedom to work when they want without having to worry about, the client's going to come in and sit next to me for 4 hours, boring me. Don't get me on with a job and whatever. And to be honest, it is quite an isolating job. A lot of the time you're sitting in an edit suite, or you're sitting in a grading suite, sitting in an audio suite, with maybe a director or a producer, all on your own anyway. You might get the odd runner come in.
Maybe they were isolated,
but ultimately, you're in there on your own. And whether you're doing that in your living room or doing it in a studio, I think what's happened is the improved communication in the reviewing process. So now, again, the parties have stepped in. Plenty of people out there that are offering services where you can control and review and discuss live what's going on any desktop or editing or graphic solution, and record all that. And I even know some of the people that we work with have got very creative in setting up their studios to try and put cameras behind and simulate that there's actually a director behind me, and then on the screen you can see the director behind them talking to them as if they're in the same room. So people have been very creative. I think it has. Already we are seeing a slight return. I know this month alone, our activity in the agency is 25-30% returning to facility land, whereas last month it was 0.
Right.
So I think as lockdown releases, technically it's over, but as freedom starts to become available, I think employers, and some staff, they do want to get back. I know my staff are asking when we can go back into the office for training classes. We've got clients who want to do physical classes rather than multiple other methods of delivery. So we try and cater to all demands, but at the same time, I think it's one of those things. You would rather have a collaborative environment when you need it, but a lot of the time as a creative editor, you don't need it. In fact, it hinders you. Sometimes you get the job done a lot quicker when you haven't got someone fiddling about with it over your shoulder.
That's a good point. Good point. So, in terms of training, Brian, what are the challenges you faced over the last couple of years, and how do you see, with everything we've just said, how do you see the future of training going forwards?
It was a massive challenge last year when COVID hit in March. We basically closed and didn't open. We haven't technically opened the office again since. So we were fortunate at the time. We'd already created a live online platform to deliver, and we trialled it for about a year with different courses in different regions just to see how it affected, get the timing right, delivery. So we effectively accelerate that program very, very quickly and managed to convert 40 of our courses, all of our 44 courses, into an online delivery platform. So what it's actually done is, again, when I mentioned sometimes through adversity opportunity, and this is sort of forced opportunity. So we converted all our courses to live online platform programs so that can be delivered over the same time frame as a physical class, and they're duplications of the physical class. We're not cutting anything out because it's live. We're not doing anything any different. The only difference is You're not actually sitting in the physical room. Everything else is the same. And then I thought, of course, there's a demand for people that have always wanted to do classroom training. Live online classes is a new thing. It's not really been forged ahead. It is growing, and it's trusted. And our general feedback is that everybody thinks it's great because, there's a lot less cost involved in doing a live course than there is a physical course, and a lot less risk at the moment. So, and then there's others that just want to learn at their own pace. And those people, we previously didn't really cater to that market because, as far as we were concerned, our market was the classroom professional who wants to learn how to be the best grader or the best graphics artist. And the best way to do that was in a classroom. That's changed. So now we've got 25 tutorials, pro tutorial series that we've created from the classroom courses. So again, you do a Premiere Pro 101 tutorial series, pro series, it's the same as if you have done a 3-day classroom. The only difference being you don't have a trainer to interact with. But all the media, all the course content, everything is exactly the same. So from our perspective, we've now got 3 different ways of delivery, whereas we only have one. That won't change. That's going to expand. We've already had inquiries from abroad for people who want to replicate what we've done over in London, in the UK, because we've been reasonably successful at it, and we had a bit of a head start. So we've been researching, and all our clients as well, we've been researching best techniques for remote working, the best environments, the most sturdy, most reliable environments. And it's about scale and it's about expectation. Some clients are going to want 100% security, 100% reliability, 100% of everything, and they're willing to pay for it. At that level, you've got all sorts of choices that you can put together. But some people just want to do it through, Google Storage or, Dropbox and things like that. So there's very cheap solutions. And I think that's something, again, that remote working has done, is made access to work a lot easier, potentially, because it's remote. And because you're not outlaying costs like traveling and doing all the sort of normal associated expenses of going to work, you can be a little bit more cost competitive. And technically, so can facilities and production houses. If they adopt the virtual model, then they scale up or scale down when they need the work. They don't have an overhead that they have to bear regardless of whether there's any activity. And it gives them a cost advantage. And I know 2 or 3 of my facility clients have actually either closed the physical facilities and gone 100% virtual, or are in the process of going 50-50. So I think that's here to stay.
Yeah, now, one of the things that jumps at me with everything we've just said, all rolled into one, most of this comes with a cost. Now, to help with accessibility, people are there any free resources on offer that can help people get started?
Yeah, I mean, we in ourselves have loads of free tutorials and free webinars that we publish all the time. They're tips, tricks, some of them. We also by default, we give away several of our tutorials anyway. So we always have probably 10 to 15, if not more, free videos available, and we're adding to them all the time. But the resource out there is phenomenal. You can pay a lot of money for courses and a lot of money, but I think the quality is also very varied. That's the problem, I think. You don't really know what you're getting until you've got it. And if it costs £20, you don't mind. You might risk it. I'll risk it for a biscuit. But if it's £300, you go, it better be good. And the only way you're going to know that is the credibility of the provider and or third-party referencing or reviews. And being around for 24 years, we think our credibility exists. So we're hoping that gives things like expanded credibility by default. You can obviously the obvious routes to free stuff is YouTube and things like that, but that's where the quality can vary massively. And what you're seeing is what someone thinks is the right thing to do. not necessarily what the right thing to do is. So you can learn some very bad techniques by following YouTubers and people. But then at the same time, if you want to replace a thermostat in your oven, it's a very handy tool.
Yeah. And as you say, I mean, it's not just the financial investment in the course, it's that person's time as well, which has a value, isn't it? And they want to make sure that time is directed in the best possible way.
Yeah, time is money, whether it's your money, your time, or the client's time. And if you've got time, you have to choose what you devote it to.
Yeah.
If you're professional and you want to be improving and constantly improving, then training is something you should be factoring in, and not an afterthought. Nothing stays the same for very long. You might be the best Premiere Pro editor in the world, but if you don't keep current with the versions and the updates and the workflows that improve, then you'll soon start to fall behind your competition. And that's when, sometimes the older generation gets stuck into a workflow and they don't see any other way of doing it. It's always worked for them. Why do they change?
Yeah, that's me, Brian. That's me. Until yesterday, actually, and I have to thank you. An email dropped into my inbox, and just picking up on Matt's bit about the free resources, and it was free video tutorials. So I just did a simple click. 50 minutes later, I'm now an expert on Wolf Cut. Know a few other things I didn't know I needed to know on Premiere Pro. So there you go. It does help.
Thanks to Soho Editors. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, you can check out everything you need to know on the resources and the courses that Soho Editors offer at sohoeditors.com. Thanks also to Mediaproxy for their support of KitPlus TV, and we'll see you next time.